everybody, it's me, Chris Gott. Let me adjust the camera a little bit here. I am coming to you live on the lake. I am literally paddleboarding right now. And I wanted to give you some tips on how to paddleboard. For those of you who have never been paddleboarding before, and maybe you want a few tips before you just go ahead and take the plunge. So I'm on my paddleboard right now. See? And I'm with my dog Phoebe. I don't know if you can see her. And I thought that you'd like these tips because if you're going to do yoga on a paddleboard, because this is Got Yoga, you can follow me on Instagram at Yogi Van Ween. If you're gonna be doing yoga on a paddleboard, you need to know how to just stand on a paddleboard first. So let's see. Tip number one. Numero uno is you gotta prepare. So you gotta start on land. Actually, this is gonna be hard trying to do this while I am on this paddleboard. You gotta prepare. So how do you prepare? Well, if you have an inflatable paddleboard, which this is, and this is an inflatable paddleboard. It's a boat board. I love boat. You've got to really pump it up, like super pump it up until you can't pump it up anymore. And even when you think you've pumped it up enough, pump it up some more. You should have a little PSI gauge on your little pump that'll tell you when it's in the green. So really pump up your paddleboard. And also, before you just go ahead and climb on a paddleboard, grab a dry bag. I don't know if you've ever heard of a dry bag, but that would be great because then you can put your keys in there, maybe your phone, a bottle of water, some sunscreen, stuff like that, some clothes you want to take off if you get hot. So you put all that stuff in your dry bag so it doesn't get wet. You can get dry bags at even Walmart. And then you need something to clip the dry bag onto. So I'm gonna flip the camera around here. Here's my dry bag, and I've got my dry bag clipped onto this bungee cord that is on the front of my paddleboard. So before you just go ahead and jump on in the water, you need to make sure you have some water to drink if it's hot out, and make sure maybe some sunscreen, and definitely put all of that in a dry bag. Okay, sorry, I'm trying to get flipped around here. Look, there's Phoebe. Okay, so tip number two is check the weather. So you don't want to go out on a day when it's windy, when it's raining. That's a bad idea. So you want nice weather. So this is great weather. The water's super glassy. There's not a lot of wind. If you go out on a day when it's really windy, you're gonna be just like hanging out on your board. You're gonna be paddling one direction, and you're gonna think to yourself, oh, this is so awesome. I just love this. This is amazing. And then when you have to turn around and go back, oh my gosh, it's gonna be so hard because you just went, the wind was blowing you gracefully, and now you have to paddle yourself upwind. It's gonna take way longer. You're gonna get worn out, and that can be dangerous. So go on a day with nice weather like today. It's so sunny and gorgeous, and the water is just glassy. Also, I prefer to paddleboard on a lake. The beach is okay too, but there's lots of waves on the beach, so there's something to think about. All right, next tip. Let's start talking about once you're in the water. So you've gotten on your paddleboard. Woo! Actually, before we talk about getting in the water, let's talk about the length of your pole. So my pole is really long because I'm really tall. So how to gauge your pole is stand on some flat ground, or you can even stand on your paddleboard, and then reach your arm all the way up to the top of your little paddle, and then you want to be able to have just a little bend in your arm as you have your board all the way on the, oops, I'm not doing this right. So I'm standing here, my paddle is level with my feet. So you want to be able to reach your arm all the way up and have a slight bend in it, and that's the perfect length for the length of your paddle. Okay? And then you're ready to get in. You've got your paddle board blown up and you're ready to get in. If you're going in with your dog, make sure your dog is wearing a life vest. Make sure your dog is relatively calm on the water already. And I like to bring a leash because Phoebe likes to jump in and I don't want her to get away from me, so I attach her to the paddle board on a leash, and she's also wearing a life jacket. So you climb in. The best way, there's really no best way to get onto your paddle board. If you're entering from the ocean, you're gonna have to get wet. If you're entering from the lake, you could probably go off of a dock or something. This is so hard to talk to you guys while I'm trying to like stand here on a paddleboard in the lake. If you're going from a dock, that's way easier because then you can just step right on your paddleboard. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you down here what my feet look like. So you want to have a really wide stance when you're standing on your paddleboard. I've got my feet pretty wide, see? The smaller your feet are, the harder it is gonna be to balance. And then you wanna have a little bend in your knees. So you wanna have a tiny, tiny bend in your knees. So that's a big bend. You want just a little bend in your knees while you've got your feet nice and wide. And let's talk about where to put your feet. So I'm gonna flip this around again. This is the front of my board and this is the back of my board. So it's kind of hard to gauge where my feet are from this video view, but I'm actually pretty far up on my board. I would say that I am farther forward than I am to the back. So I go just a little bit farther forward than the center of my board. And some boards comes with some like cool designs and stuff, and it'll kind of give you a good gauge of where to put your feet. But you want a nice wide stance, little bend in your knees, and I'm pretty far forward on my board. Don't stand way back there. Stand in the middle and then walk forward just a little bit, and that'll be your spot where to stand. We're at Black Lake right now. It is gorgeous outside. All right, so you've got your stance, you've got your dry bag attached to your board, and so you're pretty much ready to go. So now you got to learn how to paddle. So you grab your paddle and then with two hands, which is kind of hard to show you right now, and you reach as far forward as you can with that little bend in your knees, and you pull back. And so I'll try to show you with a different camera view. So you reach your paddle as far forward as you can, and then you draw it back. And then when it comes next to your feet here, don't keep going. Don't keep paddling behind you. Just keep paddling in front of you. So you reach your paddle way far out. You just reach it out there, and then you pull it back behind you, and you've got that little bend in your knees, that wide stance. I don't know if that made any sense, but it makes sense. So I can't really show you with the camera here. So let's see if I can do this. I've reached far forward and I pull it back, and it engages all your muscles. That's why paddle boarding is so great. So when you do paddle, have the paddle, the actual paddle, this part of the paddle, close to your board when you're paddling. So you want to have it close to your board when you're pulling it through the water. And if you want to make a turn, then you would have your actual paddle, this part of your paddle, while it's in the water and you're pulling it through, you would have it farther away from you to turn better. And my last tip would be to don't be ashamed if you've got to get on your knees, if you need to sit on your butt and paddle, whatever you need to feel safe. Another good tip is to stay close to the shore, especially if you're a little nervous, and wear a life jacket, which I'm not wearing a life jacket. Oops. So that's about it. I think that's all the tips that I can think of. I'm drifting pretty close to the water now. If you got your dog with you, maybe bring some water for your dog as well. And definitely have them on a life jacket and maybe a leash. So I'm like running into everything. I'm having a really hard time talking to you while I stand on this paddleboard. This is a bad idea. Sorry guys. Anyway, so I'm just gonna show you one more camera view, talk about swiping the paddle through the water again. So when you bring your paddle forward, as far forward as you can, and you pull it back, you want it nice and close to your board, and then you stop. You stop right as your paddle gets next to you, and you don't paddle behind you. You just draw the paddle forward again and paddle again. And then if you want to make a wide turn, then of course you put the paddle pretty far out in the water away from you, and that'll help you turn. I hope those were some good tips. I hope you didn't just like get totally nauseous from me just flinging this camera around everywhere, and I had a great time hanging out with all of you on the lake. I didn't fall in, which is awesome. Let's have Phoebe the weenie say hi here. Say hi, Phoebe. Say hi. Say hi, Phoebes. Oh gosh. And it's really fun paddleboarding with your dog, as long as they're safe and you're safe. And sometimes you just gotta give it a try. Hopefully the water's warm if you do fall in. So I'll see you all later. Have a great day. Check me out on Instagram, Yogi Van Ween, Y-O-G-I, that's Yogi Van, V-A-N, Ween, W-E-E-N. And because me and my dog and my husband travel around in our van and I teach yoga. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you later.